Morning, YouTube. Still trying to figure out what to do with my hands and whatever. Slow Monday morning. Just rambling. This morning I was on TikTok and I saw a TikTok from, I think he's on there as John Kaiser. He was talking about his last month's pay stubs. He made $11,000 working for the dealership, and after taxes and his take home was probably like $6,000, $7,000, right around in there. It's completely doable working for a dealership, working for an independent when you're up, I don't know, I guess he is a master technician, and before that he was working at various other dealerships. Averages out to about 70 hours a week if I did my math right, which is doable. I mean, if you're doing 4 or 5 days, well, if you're doing 5 days, 6 days a week, it is completely doable. You're just working a lot of hours to get in. Sometimes you're doing open and close. My highest week I ever did at a dealership was over 100 hours booked. It was 108. Those were very long days. Everything went right. All the parts were there when they needed to be. So everything was flowing right. That's just the best way to describe it. And I was there pretty much from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. most days, if not a bit more. And I think I even worked that Saturday. So definitely doable. It just takes a lot of time investment to get it done. So I know there was a little bit of people were giving him shit for it, saying, he's a crook, you can't do it, but it can be done. I've seen people make more hours at the dealership. Near us, there's a Hyundai dealership that does 7-day work weeks, and I know of at least 2 techs that work 7 days a week. There's one tech I know there that he takes 1 day off every 2 weeks, so he has no personal life. I don't know. There is no work-life balance for him. Everything is straight work. But he gets it. He gets his hours done. He's doing motors over there. It's just a pain. So he was going over his little pay stub, and he was making $34 an hour. And I remember talking with one of my close friends, Byron, and we were talking about his pay and what he was making back in the 70s, 80s, early 90s. And honestly, our pay as techs hasn't really gone up. The door labor rates have gone up significantly. I know there's a Dodge dealership near me that's over $200 an hour. I think it's $220 an hour. Their techs are still making $20, $30 an hour. So back in, I guess, Byron's days, he would get paid percentage of the door rate. So it was like a partnership between the owner or the establishment and the technician, because the technicians have always been responsible for bringing in their own tools, their own diagnostic equipment. So the shop would provide the roof, the building. Clients would naturally gravitate towards the building and go from there. Even kind of here where I'm working at, I mean, I do have a lift, but if I had the option of buying my own lift like this, because they're not overly expensive, honestly, and being like an independent contractor and getting paid 50% of the door rate, because all I had to do was provide my own lift as well, then I probably would do that. I think anybody in the right mind would, because if you think about some of these door rates that are out there, $200 plus an hour, that's pretty significant. And considering our pay is, as in our industry, hasn't really gone up for that level 1 or the journeymans, master level techs, it's just they're still making the 30s, and $30 an hour is what they were making back in the 70s, just making half the door rate. So in that sense, our pay has gotten stagnant. I mean, it just doesn't really increase. I know dealerships, getting a raise through a dealer is just a pain in the butt. Once you're in the dealer, typically they won't negotiate you a raise if you're lucky to get a quarter. Those quarters work, by the way. I definitely advocate for those, going in every quarter asking for a quarter. Those quarters add up. One of my previous mini dealers I worked at, there was a tech there. He would go in every quarter and ask for a quarter, and he was one of the highest paid techs there because he did that every quarter. Where am I going with this? Either way, I was looking at other blue collar jobs, just going back and forth between that, and there was the time and a half system, the double pay, and whether or not that could be incorporated into this flat rate system. I mean, think about it. If you're working your butt off for the dealership, a lot of times they'll give you more compensation by saying, hey, you made more than 40 or 50 hours this week, we're going to give you an extra $1. Cool. I also worked for other dealers. They said this is your average in percentages. If you can break 100%, 103%, 105%, you get $2 or $3. And the easiest way to do that is by staying longer, coming in earlier, working through lunch. Cool. Not really. So, if our industry is going to change pay structure wise, getting paid a percentage of door rate is never going to come back. I've had these discussions with Byron time and time again. It's never going to come back. But what I think could start happening is there's a lot of union shops out there and they're starting to get a bit more unionized. Not a lot, but a few. Is time and a half and double pay systems. So the more you work for your shop, the better your reward should be. Because I mean, think about a lot of other blue collar workers out there. If they work 70 hours, so let me just bring out my calculator here. Sorry, this is going to be kind of annoying while I do this. 1 second. I know I got pens here somewhere. Right? There we go. All right, so let's say 70 hours worked, right? So, what up, Charlie?
I'm on the phone that's in the work company for Andrea.
All right.
And I was trying to find in the notes and everything. They want to know, how did we find out the valve guide seals?
It's smoking from the exhaust.
Smoking from the exhaust?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's just...
That's smoking from the valve guide seals.
Gotcha.
All right, so that was Charlie. All right, so we're here at 70 hours, right? So let's say even going off my math, this is what John was making on the TikTok, just rough averages, 70 hours a week. So out of that, you have 40 hours that are going to get paid at regular pay. His pay was $34. So between 40 and 60, so that's 20 hours. That'll be time and a half. And then you have 10 hours at double pay, right? So times 2 multipliers. Let me get my calculators out. So 34 times, damn it. Come on. All right, so that'll be 51. So, and this is probably why this will never happen, because the dealerships always like to, shops in general, they just like to make sure they prioritize and maximize all of their profits. It's usually how it is. I mean, it is a business, so. But let's say right here, Josh or John made 70 hours that week, so 70 times 34. So he's going to get $2,380 gross. And if he was getting paid like a regular blue collar worker, it would be 40 hours times $34 an hour. That'll be $1,360. It'll be 20 hours at 51. That's 1,020. And then it'll be 10 at 68. So that's 680. So doing my maths here, see, 1360 plus 1000. All right, so that'll be a take home of 3060. So there is a big difference in how other blue collar jobs get paid, because they get their time and a half. They get the double payout based off how many hours they're working there, aka overtime. But if you really think about it, I've worked with some mechanics out there that give like physical time in the building, are giving 80, 90 hours a week to their store. And to them, they're like, yeah, well, I'm billing more hours. But realistically, given your time investment and your tool investment, our pay is kind of messed up. Like, it should be structured a little differently. And I know this will never happen, because at that point they're going to basically give us an extra $700 off that structure. But I think that's the direction it needs to go. Cars are getting more and more complicated. They are more complicated. You have to do more things as a tech now. You're working freaking TV systems, electronics inside the car, HVAC, and just doing a bunch of other nonsense through these cars as they start working. And now then, once again, that being said, all of this means nothing once electric vehicles become mainstream, so I'm going to make another video for that. At least my thoughts and rambles on where electric vehicles are going to be in roughly about 10 to 15 years.